and we'll go over that in just a minute. Want to be respectful of a person's time that we have on the phone with us. Mark Meckler is an American political activist. He's an attorney. He's a business executive. He currently serves as president of Citizens for Self-Governance and Convention of States Action. Very involved in the Tea Party in its early days. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's also a board member of Parler that has been in the news recently and the company's interim CEO. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, you nailed it. That's correct.
Well, that's about the only thing I've nailed thus far, but we get better. We get better as time goes on. A mutual friend, Robert Cahaley, texted me early this morning and asked if you were going to be on, and I said yes, and he ran my campaign when I ran for Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina. But Robert is very involved in your efforts and very supportive of what you're trying to get done. So, Mark, if you don't mind, I'll get out of the way and allow you to explain to our listeners. We've talked about Article 5 of the Constitution. We've talked about some of the changes that people want to see in our government. Term limits come to mind. But as it relates to the internal involvement, where the rubber hits the road, boots on the ground, where are we in this process, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Sure. So Article 5 gives us the power to call a convention of states, get the states together, and talk about restraining federal power. And it takes 34 states to get there. So far, 15 states have approved it. We're hoping South Carolina will be number 16. Right now, this morning, we'll be over in the Constitutional Law Subcommittee in the House. It's H.R. 3205. I think we look pretty good in committee. Here's really what we're going to be talking about specifically. There are three things that the states will get together to discuss. First is anything that would impose fiscal restraints on the federal government. By that, I mean things like a balanced budget amendment, taxes and spending caps, maybe imposing generally accepted accounting principles on the federal government so they actually have to do real math. I know that's hard for the folks in D.C., but they need to do that. Second is anything that would impose term limits on federal officials. Importantly, that's not just Congress, but it also means the judiciary, staffers, and bureaucrats, what we know as the deep state. And then the last thing is the federalism you were talking about. Anything that would impose scope or jurisdiction restraints on the federal government. Those are things like telling them, no, you can't do education. You got to get rid of the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the EPA, things like that, where they have really intruded on states' rights. Bring that stuff back to South Carolina. Let South Carolinians decide for themselves. So that's what the convention is about. Specifically in convention, important for people to understand, if we get to convention, 34 states do it, we will get to convention. All they can do in convention is have a discussion and make suggestions. They don't get to change the Constitution. They propose amendments, and then those amendments go out to the states. It takes 38 states to ratify any amendment that comes out of convention.
And, Mark, it's fair to say that, I read polls a lot, and there's nothing Republicans and Democrats agree on. I'm talking about voters in particular, except term limits. Nothing polls in the 80s, close to 90% in American politics, term limits does. Is this the only shot we have? Is Article 5, Convention of States, is there another avenue to make radical change to government? Or is your argument this is our best chance if we are going to make radical changes to an ever-growing federal government?
Yeah, my experience in looking at D.C., and I've been going to D.C. on and off for 10 and a half years, like you said, starting with the Tea Party, this is our only chance. And frankly, when I talk to folks in the legislature, I was over there all day yesterday, and folks have a lot of questions, and my final question to them is, what's the alternative? And the best I get is a blank stare. And everybody says, well, there really isn't one. D.C. is going to crash the country. This is true under both parties. You mentioned we got Republicans sleeping, and I think we got a lot of Republicans in D.C. that are just plain asleep. And so the country is going to be crashed. $1.9 trillion just added to our deficit. We're at to our debt. We're at almost $29 trillion in debt at this point. It's just absolutely unbelievable that what they're doing. I don't have another solution. People will say, well, we should elect better people. And my answer is, well, how's that working for y'all?
Mm-hmm. We live in the real world. I think Rush Limbaugh said he was the mayor of Realville. You're having to live in Realville. If people listening to you, if they're listening to this broadcast, they hear Mark Meckler, they know what you're doing today on the behalf of really conservative voters all over the country who believe the federal government's out of control, how can they help you be successful?
They go to conventionofstates.com, click on the petition, sign the petition. That'll go to your state legislator, and then click on the Take Action tab. It's not enough to just sign a petition or be angry or listen to the radio, and we appreciate folks do all that stuff, but what we want them to do is get involved. They go to conventionofstates.com, sign the petition, click on the Take Action tab, and get involved. And right here today, call your member of the House of Representatives and let them know you want them to support H.R. 3205.
Mark, thank you for your time. Good luck today, sir.
God bless you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you a lot. There's Mark Meckler. He is kind of a renowned political. I mean, he's involved in a lot of conservative causes in America. We had to kind of disrupt the Second Amendment call, but Cahaly is very. I mean, you guys have come to know Robert a little bit throughout the presidential campaign. He's very supportive of these efforts. He's very supportive of a convention of states, and thinks the Article 5 reasoning or rationale is our best chance to get major change to government.
I'm here live in Philadelphia at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. When you hear the phrase lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, these are the folks we should think of, those who anonymously gave their lives. Well, today you have a chance to volunteer. You need to volunteer for conventionofstates.com, the movement that's going to save the country. These folks are willing to step up and give everything. We need you to give just a little bit. Go to conventionofstates.com and volunteer today.